The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Cowboys Camping Out. Presented by Solo Stove. And broadcasting live from training camp in Oxnard, California.
Cowboys Nation, welcome back to another episode of Camping Out presented by Solo Stove, the official fire pit of the Dallas Cowboys. Go ahead and check them out at solostove.com. Keeping us warm over here. We got the s'mores coming up in a little bit.
Keeping us warm. Texans hate us right now.
They really do.
Oh, my gosh. Well, goodness. My name is Nicole Hutchison. We got Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Nick Harris, and we got Derek Eagleton.
It threw you off.
It threw me off. I know. I was like, whoa. Oh, goodness. Guys, we got a win over here. We got to come back to Oxnard with a win against the Raiders.
Yeah.
We got to start with the offense, though. I'll start with you, Patrik. It seems like this offense with Trey Lance stepping up big took a step in the right direction, right?
Yeah. First of all, I don't care about wins in the preseason.
For sure, but it's still a confidence
So let me put that out there right
Yeah.
now. However, that being said, it's definitely a morale booster for Trey Lance to be able to go out there, look at the film, some of the errors that he made against the Los Angeles Rams, and repair those. And, it took a little while for him to get started. He's kind of suffering that cold start syndrome, first quarter, third quarter. But once he settled in, and he tended to settle in more frequently than he did against the Los Angeles Rams, he was making the throws that he needed to make. He was running and using his legs when he needed to, as opposed to using it as a reason to not make the throw. So the timeliness was there, decisiveness was there. He trusted his arm more. He pulled the trigger. And his receivers, they helped him out. Ryan Flanoy, for example. You saw some other guys. Kelvin Harmon continues to step up. For the most part, great outing by Trey Lance when compared to what happened in Los Angeles. Was it perfect? No. And I continue to be impressed with his maturity and accountability. Talked to him after the game. One of the things that he said was, I left a lot of plays on the field. That tells me he's looking to improve going into this Chargers finale.
Josh?
No, we said it on Talking Cowboys, I think, last week, where it's like a preseason L doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but a preseason W, I'm feeling good. I'll see you at the NFC Championship game.
Oh, my God.
It's happening. No.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
No, I like what I saw out of the both offensive defensive lines. Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe almost playing an entire half of football.
Yeah.
Great snaps. Cooper Beebe beating two guys from, I think, on the very first play. And Nick Eatman told me a story about Derek and Nick in that first snap. You watching Cooper Beebe, him watching Tyler Guyton, and just being impressed and having to go back and watch the other the other player on that same snap, and just it gives you a lot of confidence going into the regular season.
Yeah, it's hilarious because I looked over at Nick and I was like, did you see Guyton? And he was like, did you see Beebe? And we were both like, okay, let's go back and watch the other guy.
Yeah.
And both of us were equally impressed when we watched the other guy as we were with the guy that we mentioned. So, yeah, I think it was a good game. It was a lot of things that in that game that you look at and you're like, okay, we're starting to cook a little bit. I kind of like that. My big thing and I don't know if I don't want to jump too far ahead if we're going to talk about Trey Lance in depth.
But
right?
You the boss. Do what you
You
want to
the
do.
boss. Do what you want to do, man.
This all you.
I'm just here.
This all you.
He's like, I'm just trying to be a player right
this
now.
all you.
I know how it is when you're hosting. I don't like people starting to take my show and take it the wrong direction. I want you to follow me, so I'm just trying to make sure.
At me next time.
Hey.
Sorry.
At me next
That was
time.
not at you. That was not at you. That was at Patrick.
What do you say F me for? What do you say F me for?
No, but I mean, when I look at Trey Lance, my big thing about him is from last week to this week, I think we all saw an improvement, right?
Yep.
Question becomes, do we run out of time? Because he's got one more game, and then the likelihood is he doesn't play another down until this season is over. And if that's the case, have the Cowboys seen enough to be able to make a decision? He's a free agent. Have they seen enough to be able to make a decision? Have other teams around the league seen enough to be able to make a decision? Has Trey gotten to the point where he's able to really show the best of him yet, right? And I think I'm starting to see things I like. I don't know if I see enough, and that's the problem I have right now for Trey is how do you get him to that point? Are you going to run out of time?
Yeah, I see three things on the table for what the Cowboys can do with Trey Lance. One, they see enough from him this preseason to make him QB2 on this roster in 2024. Option number two, they don't see enough to make him QB2 now, but with all three quarterbacks having expiring contracts going into next offseason, they see an opportunity to bring him back and make him QB2 after this season. And the third option is to see what kind of value he can raise for himself and see what that looks like out on the open market after this preseason. So they do have the luxury of options, and I think whenever you look at Trey Lance as a backup quarterback option, you have to kind of look at it from a holistic perspective. What do you want in a backup quarterback? You want reliability, and you want something that he can bring to the table. He hasn't turned the ball over in 2 games, and he brings athleticism to the table. Now, I don't think he's necessarily ready to be able to step in and start for an injured Dak Prescott or anything like that. I think Cooper Rush is still your guy, but Cooper Rush is over 30 years old now. You have to look at the youth that Trey Lance brings, and again, the athleticism. He showed it yesterday. He had the rushing touchdown. He had a couple of read option plays that are very specific to him in that offense. You're not going to see Dak Prescott or Cooper Rush run those plays. And so I really liked what he brought to the table. And you mentioned it, Patrick, like as that second half went on, you could really see the confidence. There was zip on his throws. He was making those throws outside the numbers that he struggled with so bad last week against the Rams. And again, no turnovers. I think that's what you're looking for if you're evaluating a backup quarterback option.
My next question to you is kind of what Derek was mentioning, is that do you think that Trey Lance's value, his upside, right, what you see in the foreseeable future of what he can bring to this Dallas Cowboys organization, do you think that his value future-wise is higher than what Cooper Rush brings right now? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's tough. I think Trey Lance, I think he does have a deeper tool bag. I think he has the better arm whenever he can use it. The touch isn't quite there. I think Coop's got the better touch. Obviously, Trey Lance has the better athleticism. So it can kind of open up a Mike McCarthy offense into some other things. But I think if I was to make that decision between those three options, I'd probably make the decision to bring him back as a backup past 2024. Let Cooper Rush be that QB2 this year. This is just my evaluation right now. There's still one preseason game left, but let Cooper Rush be that QB2 this year. And then, you bring back Trey Lance and make him the QB2 of the future.
I like that, and I would add to that, you have to take into account the free market variable as well. So let's say Trey Lance goes and, significantly improves over the Raiders game and going into the Chargers game. So now he's boosted his value, and he leaves the season on a high note because, like Derek said, he's not going to take another snap until next season, be it with the Cowboys in preseason or with another team. And then you're going to have the issue of their
knock on all the wood.
Then you're going to have an issue with – I didn't say it started. But then but then you have the issue, I should say the matter of there are several other teams perennially who are going to need a quarterback, right? And that may be a QB2, and they may be willing to offer Trey Lance more money for QB2 than the Dallas Cowboys would be comfortable doing so. Or they might offer him a QB1 if he balls out against the Chargers, and that's the note that he leaves on this August. So that's definitely on the table. The Cowboys would have to consider that. But the Cowboys have, for the past several seasons under Mike McCarthy, they've been trying to get that developmental quarterback. This is their developmental quarterback. They gave up a 4th-round pick to get him as opposed to using a 4th-round pick in the draft to actually select a rookie to develop that guy. I think that goes to one of Nick Harris's options in that I don't see right now that he has beaten out Cooper Rush. I don't see it. He would have to have an unbelievable game against the Chargers for that to happen. I think this is more so the long game. Dak Prescott's contract notwithstanding, because I think that gets done. But I think you're looking at the plan being Trey Lance being QB2 in 25.
Question, would you spend a 4th-round pick on a quarterback that you would only have for 2 years instead of 4? That's where I'm like, okay, where's the value?
Well,
here?
but
where is the value?
When they gave up the 4th-round pick, I don't know that was the equation. I think more of what I would think they were thinking of is we're paying this 4th-round pick to see. I know that's an expensive cost just to see, but that's what you're doing. You're paying to be able to see if the guy has a future. And if you find out that he has a future, then you have options. You can either say he could be our guy. You could say, hey, rest of the NFL, all you quarterback-starved teams, we have a guy that we think might be good for you. Yeah. What are you willing to give us for him? And then you leverage that 4th and turn it into a 2nd, or leverage that 4th and in some great, cosmos, you get it a 1st. But I think that's more the equation, in my opinion, than – am I only going to get 2 years out of it? It's more of, let me just see what this guy is and see if I can maybe gamble my way into a better pick.
And say there's a situation where you don't get a dance partner in a trade, right? But with that free market variable, another team comes in and they pay Trey Lance a 3-year deal, 4-year deal. Yeah. Well, now you might get that back as a comp. You might get that 4th back as a comp, maybe even a 3rd-round pick, depending on what that contract looks like. So all of that's in play as well.
Yeah.
Derek, you've been here. No, sorry, I don't mean.
See, here we go with the old stuff. Just a few minutes ago when you talked about Cooper, it was like, wait, did y'all catch it when she was talking about Cooper? She was like, he's 31. He's old.
Yeah, no, I felt that.
He's old.
I felt that. I was going to let
mean
that slide. I felt that.
My
Yeah,
bad.
okay.
I didn't
all
mean.
right.
I didn't
Trey
mean
Lance,
it like
he's young.
that.
Young, spry.
My bad, y'all. I didn't mean to say it like
Here we
that.
go.
But you've been around the
Yeah,
Cowboys
yeah,
for
yeah.
a minute. When is the last time that you've seen, this team have that sort of that leverage or that take that risk when you talk about, the thing that they're doing with Trey Lance? When's the last time that you've really seen that?
Oh, man. I'm trying to think of when I've seen them do that with. Are you talking
With all of
specifically
the
about a quarterback?
experience
Yeah,
that you
with the quarterback.
have.
Oh, man. I don't.
Yeah, what did Tex Graham do?
But I'll tell you this: they've taken chances with quarterbacks. I can't say that it's often worked out because I start thinking about guys like Drew Henson and guys like what was your other Hutchinson, like those guys that they were basically bringing from baseball.
He's a guy.
Yeah, they were trying to bring them from baseball
Yeah.
and trying to turn them into quarterbacks, and it just didn't work, right?
Brandon Wheaton didn't do it for you?
No, but Brandon, that wasn't a chance. I mean,
I get it.
that wasn't taking a chance necessarily. It wasn't an
Speaking of
NFL
old.
quarterback. He was literally just an NFL quarterback
like
who was
28
just
when he-
more of a backup type quarterback. But yeah, they've taken some chances at the quarterback position. But that's also the interesting thing. Somebody was asking me earlier today. They were like, "What was the biggest takeaway for you from last night's game?" And I said, quite frankly, the biggest takeaway was not about the players that were on the field. The biggest takeaway was I looked over at the Raiders, and then I looked at Nick, and I said, "Aren't you glad that we're not sitting here in week 2 of the NFL preseason and still don't know who the starting quarterback is?" That to be a team like that,
Right.
I've been in that before, going back to those early 2000 days. That ain't fun.
Yeah.
Nope.
Because usually by the time you get to the Thanksgiving Day game, you're working for free. What I mean by that is you ain't going to games because it's fun. You're going to games because it's a job. I'm talking about all of us.
Yeah.
That's y'all haven't experienced that. Y'all have only experienced we're going to games because it's fun, man.
Yeah.
Teams into it, they're winning, whatever. Like when you go into games and it's a job, it's a different kind of job. Like it don't feel the same as it feels right now, where we're all just like, let's go, this is fun. It's hard, and when you don't have a quarterback, that is the reality of the NFL. So all the people out there that talk about Dak Prescott and whether the Cowboys should have him back, and they're like, he can't win in the play. I don't care. I got a capable starting
that's really-
quarterback.
that
I got a
purgatory.
capable starting quarterback that I
Purgatory
feel
series.
like if everything works out, gives me as much of an opportunity as most other good quarterbacks in the league. And it's just going to have to be a matter of can they make everything work. But at least I go into the season knowing I got a quarterback that can win.
Good problem to have. It's
Yeah.
also a good problem to have. Two capable centers, starting centers. You got Cooper Beebe, who got the start against the Raiders, and you got Brock Hoffman. Let's talk about Cooper Beebe, though. Start with Nick Harris.
Yeah, I loved what he brought. You talked about that first play of the game. I believe it was Josh that mentioned that. It was a run block for Malik Davis, and it wasn't only him. It was Awesome Richards as well that was able to pave a way in the interior. And then there was one play in the first half as well. It was a deep ball from Trey Lance. He overthrew it, but you look at the protection up front, and Cooper Beebe put two guys on their backside, just bang, and then another guy came up. It was a linebacker. He went bang, and I love his hands. They're perfectly placed. He has great pad level. He gets guys down on the ground, and man, it's crazy because after the first week and a half of camp, I was like, man, I think Brock Hoffman's too far ahead. I think he's NFL ready. He's had the proper offseason. He didn't have to worry about draft prep this offseason. He knew he had a chance at the starting center position way before April 25th or whatever it was. I think he's going to be the guy. And Cooper Beebe has closing that gap so fast. I think it's truly a neck-and-neck battle right now. I think you're going into week 3 of the preseason. I think whoever has a stronger week out here in Oxnard paired with a week 3 in back home in Dallas, that's going to be your starting center week 1.
And all due credit to Brock Hoffman for
100%.
actually making that
100%.
an absolutely tough battle at center,
For sure.
because it was a sure thing up until we actually got here to camp, and Brock Hoffman is putting people on their back. And it's like, okay, is Cooper Beebe not like at that level yet? But like we've talked about before with Cooper Beebe, the ceiling is much higher than Brock's is right now. Even though Brock had that experience, he had the starts. I think at this point we know where we are with Cooper Beebe and how far that's going to take us.
Can I throw a question out
Go
there?
for it.
when you guys look
So
at
you are
Beebe,
the host.
Right.
I'm not. But it's hard to
hard to
stop
let it
doing what I always do. When you look at Cooper Beebe right now, if you were like, hey, this one thing, if he gets this one thing better, if he gets better at this one part of his game, he's clearly the best center on this team. What would that be?
I want him to marry coming up from the snap a little bit better, just
Yes.
because that's the biggest thing that he's had to adjust to coming in, moving from guard to center, is getting that ball out and then being ready for that initial punch. If he can do that just a little bit quicker, a little bit better timing there, then I think he's going to be ready to have.
You're
a
going to show him a few tips.
Yeah, might get out there on the field, knock Snard.
Yeah,
You saw how he leaned forward there and kind of demonstrated.
Feel like you've been
like that.
practicing.
I
Have
like
you been
that.
practicing this?
Go tell him.
I'm always practicing, my pass protection sets.
I like that. I 100% agree with Harris,
Yeah.
though, on that. And I've mentioned this before on Twitter at Voice of the Star. Shameless plug. For me, going into this most recent preseason game against the Raiders, and I've said this about Beebe, we saw how he struggled with the snap as far as getting that down over the first week or so. And that's why we basically penciled in Brock Hoffman, saying that the gap was too large, especially for week one, as far as Cooper Beebe is concerned. But the biggest thing for me for Cooper Beebe was getting the snaps down. Now that he has the snaps down, he looked so comfortable against the Raiders, and he is not thinking about them anymore. He said himself, it's quote-unquote second nature now. Fantastic. Now comes the quickness from that snap to hands up, because at several points over the course of camp practices, and you see it a few times in games, he gets pushed off the initial snap, but it's simply because of quickness, not lack of strength. But then to his credit, when he drops anchor, after he gets beat off of that set, when he drops anchor, you're not moving him. He has the hands, he has the pad level, he has the size, the center of gravity. It's fantastic what I'm seeing from this young man. And when you talk about the ceiling of Cooper Beebe, we know what we have with Brock Hoffman. We know what the Cowboys have with Brock Hoffman. And that's a capable NFL starting center. But there's no ceiling that I see on Cooper Beebe.
Interesting.
Right? So if he can continue to refine and pick up tidbits on how to be elite from a guy like Zach Martin on his right, from an all-pro like Tyler Smith on his left, there's no reason this young man should not be an all-pro himself. Maybe not year one, but I could see it as early as year two, and wouldn't be surprised if it happened in year one.
We've only been in training camp for about 3 weeks, right? 4 weeks?
We're going on with three
Drop
and a
the
half.
foe.
About three and a
Ever.
half.
Four? So
Just ever. No, drop the foe. Ever.
Ever.
the fourth foe ever.
Foe.
Drop the foe.
Ever.
The
Ever.
forever.
Forever, ever?
But no,
Forever
that just
never seems that long until you're grown.
that just goes to show you how much of a work ethic that Cooper Beebe has, because
Yes.
in just this short amount of time, he's worked so hard. And that's something that I brought up actually in the broadcast yesterday, is because last week I noticed that the offensive line stays after practice and they're one of the last to leave off the field. But he's also someone that's one of the last after the offensive linemen leave. He's there working with maybe either it's Trey Lance or you have him working with Brock Hoffman. He said Brock has really been the guy that's helped him improve with the snaps. So I love that, even though they're competing for the same competition.
I do have a question, though,
Yep.
as far as the snap goes. To answer your question with a question, is the snap going where it needs to go? Because I haven't necessarily seen
It
or
has,
paid
yes.
attention to that
Yes,
exact part.
it's been accurate.
Because Dak was talking about how it's like at this level, you're not actually looking at where the ball is.
Correct.
It just needs to be where it needs to be. And with that growth of Cooper Beebe, is that ball getting where it needs to
Right
go
now,
at this point?
at-
And did it start that way?
It is now. It's accurate now. It did not start that way. If you go back and look at the first few practices, first handful of practices, there was a lot of this from Cooper Rush and Trey Lance.
Yeah,
right. There
different
was there was very little of this hitting him in the chest plate. Now ball is right where right now ball is getting right where it needs to get. He's not thinking about it. So now it's just about, like Nick Harris said, it's about improving his quickness off of the snap, getting his head and hands up, because those guys are coming.
Y'all do realize what y'all doing here, right?
Sorry.
What's that?
Y'all are really
Moving on.
y'all are exciting this Cowboys fan base, and
About
I'm not
Cooper
even
Beebe?
sure.
They should
No,
be
about the
excited.
offensive line, about the
should be.
offensive
They
line. 'cause
should be.
You think about it, and I'm
Objectively-
myself included.
objectively, they
Myself
should be.
included. We have talked so much about Tyler Guyton. We have talked so much about Cooper Beebe over the last few days. We obviously going back to draft even. Obviously Tyler Smith is Tyler Smith. You've got Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. Whatever you think of Terrence Steele, the fact is the Cowboys have, in a very, very short period of time, if this plays out the way that they are being talked about right now, they have rebuilt their offensive line.
Yes.
And they are able now to sustain the possibility of someone like Zach Martin moving on if he chooses to do so in the next year to 3 years. Because not only that, you got back people behind him like T.J. Bass, who you really like. You got Hoffman, who you really like. You've got guys, Awesome Richards, who you really like. They have remade this offensive line, and yes, they've had some first-round picks in there. They've also had some other picks that are not first-round picks that they've turned into what looks like they may be players. Now, again, I think I want to caution fans, slow down just a bit, because Guyton and Beebe have not taken NFL snaps in a regular season game. So we just don't know. What we're seeing tells us that there are some positive signs and that we think there may be some real positive signs that these guys can be players in the NFL. But if this turns out the way it's looking right now, man, Will McClay, you did your thing, bro.
I think objectively fans should be excited. This is not us using hyperbole. This is us five having seen these young men from the draft through rookie mini camp, through mandatory mini camp, and now through training camp and through 2 preseason games. And we're sitting here objectively saying first handful of practices for Cooper Beebe, the snap wasn't there. It was here, it was there, it was there. He needed to get that down. Brock Hoffman had him leaps and bounds. But now in that same breath, we can honestly sit here and say, based on the analysis, that he's closed that gap and he's taken a lead. Now, will that lead be grown by what happens against the Los Angeles Chargers? Quite possibly. But if Brock Hoffman has a good game and Beebe takes a step back, then we'll reevaluate next week. Fact of the matter is, between Guyton and Cooper Beebe, we talk about work ethic on Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton as well. Both of these young men have dedicated their entire offseason to becoming NFL starters, not week 7, not week 12, week 1 of this regular season.
Can I point out something real quick?
Yeah.
Today I was walking over by our little tent where we work. I went over there because I had to give me Dr. Pepper. I was like fiending a Dr. Pepper. So I went over there to give me Dr. Pepper.
Is that why they were empty?
Official
over there?
sponsor.
I don't know.
Are we sponsored by Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper's always involved in everything we do around here. But I was fiending one, so I went over there to get it. Look out on the field, day after a game. Who's out there working?
Who?
Tyler Guyton.
Tyler Guyton.
Oh,
Tyler
he's
Guyton.
obsessed with getting
Tyler
better.
Guyton. And I was like, man, that says everything I need to know about that young man. He just played a game yesterday. And usually you come off a game, and he played a whole first half. You come off a game, your body needs a little bit of a break. You take that little bit of a break. You know, that wasn't what he was doing. He was out there. He was working. And I was like, and by the way, he's by himself. It wasn't like he was out there working with anyone else. He's out there working by himself. I love that. I love that work ethic.
What was he doing?
Honestly, I didn't wait around to see because sometimes
let that man cook. Let that man cook.
Not only that, what I didn't say, and as you guys know, I love food, right? What I also did say is I had food in my hand that I already had,
yeah.
so I was running over to get a drink, and I was like, I could wait around and see, or I could go eat.
I go.
All right, bro, I saw you were working. That's all I need to see. You working.
I just need to see that for camping out.
Right.
Later.
Yeah, you doing your thing. Work out.
The one thing on Tyler Guyton looked great yesterday once again. The one thing that I would like to see him improve upon is, he's got this length. He's got this power. He does a good job of using it, but his hands are come so wide out on the edge. That's gonna bite him in the butt at some point during the season. A guy like Myles Garrett, who's a power rusher, he's gonna come right in the middle of those hands, and it's gonna knock him back a little bit. So I want to see him bring those hands in a little bit more. He just gets so wide that he almost gets around like the biceps of edge rushers. I want to see him get up in the chest plate a little bit. That's the only knock that I really had from yesterday's game.
Or like an exceptional speed rusher like a T.J. Watt will get him off the edge, and then it becomes like a holding penalty because you're wide and then your arm gets away and it's yellow flag. So.
Yeah, you'll see all kinds of things, I think, sometimes with him where you're like, ooh, that didn't look like it was textbook. But that's also the thing. He's so athletic and so strong and so long. He has a way to recover. Like sometimes you'll see him, he kind of gets over, he's leaning over too far, he's not back into his set, and he still doesn't get beat. He has a way to kind of recover. I'm like, when he figures that part out, oh my gosh. Like if he has enough athleticism and strength to be able to overcompensate for that, then that's a good thing right now in his career. Because by the way, he's going to face some pass rushers that are going to give him some problems this year if he's the starter. Because that's just the nature of coming into the NFL.
Well, he had snaps yesterday with Max Crosby.
Absolutely did, yeah.
They made Max switch sides.
Max won't say that's why, but Max went over to the other side.
We saw that, Max. So we saw that.
He made a play on the other side that he did not make on Tyler Guyton's side.
doubt.
And we've seen Tyler Guyton out here in camp. And, I mean, obviously Micah Parsons can be rather unstoppable at several points against whomever you line him up against. But the fact that in full speed reps, there were times where Tyler Guyton walled him off. Yeah. Even after losing on the initial move from Micah Parsons, which goes to your point, Derek, it's the footwork of Tyler Guyton. So his basketball background, keep in mind, Tyler Guyton didn't get switched to football until high school, right? Late in high school, he thought he was going to be an NBA player. That's what he was aspiring to be. So that footwork that you're seeing, it's translating from the hardwood over to the gridiron.
And you see, obviously, the respect is there from Micah, too,
Yeah.
because you see them dapping each other up after he may have them beat.
You know who wasn't dapping him up? Jared Verse.
I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you.
That was a fun battle.
Jared
to watch.
Verse was fed
That
up.
was actually a fun battle to watch. That was a fun battle to watch.
Another fun battle to watch is actually that running back battle, guys.
Ooh.
It's heating up, and not many people are talking
Heating up
about
like,
it.
Like Solo Stove?
Heating up like Solo.
We gotta get
Much
some
like
more.
the
That was a
Solo.
good one.
Yeah, we gotta get some more.
Yeah, somebody go ahead.
Yeah, we do
get
that.
some more.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
fine,
I'll do the wood
yeah.
job. Yep,
Yeah.
no worries.
Yeah.
I'm
But
on it.
no,
You Kobe that thing last time.
I did.
you're sick. We got a chance to see all the guys though in action yesterday. The rest, come on now, tighten up. Nick Harris, a bug just almost flew in my mouth, y'all. Oh my god.
That's all right. Just swallow it. Don't worry about it. You good.
I'm sorry. But no. We got
protein.
no. It's gross.
Shouts to Solo Stove presented by Solo Stove.
Solo Stove.
Yeah, you
Go to solostove.com.
you don't watch Naked and Afraid? Just eat the bugs, protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is nasty.
Facts.
Couldn't have said
Y'all-
like Survivor. or
Seek
something
help.
like
Like, that's gross.
Man versus Wild.
that. Bear Wild.
disgusting.
Yeah, Bear
Specifically.
Grylls.
But no, guys, we got a chance to see all the running backs in action. Aside from Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle, those guys are bubble wrapped in that game. But when you talk about Deuce Vaughn,
Yes.
how crucial was that for him to have a performance like that? Derek, I'll start with you.
I think it was very important because I think the one thing that I believe of this running back by committee group that they have, the one thing I keep saying is, or keep thinking is, who's going to give them the juice? Like, who's going to give them, who's that guy that's going to provide those runs that can really make a defense be really afraid of what he can do? I think Zeke can beat up on a defense, and that's what his role is going to be. I think Rico Dowdle is a good running back, and I said on our show last week, I was like, I really believe that if Rico stays healthy, I think Rico can have the kind of season where he'll be up there a top 10 running back in the NFL. I really believe that. The question for him has always been, can he stay healthy? And this is the opportunity that he's going to get to have that kind of workload where he can actually be one of those top 10 running backs. So if he stays healthy, I think he can do that. The question still becomes, who's your guy that really puts fear in the defense? Because at any given moment, he can break a big run. He can do something special. If Deuce can do that, if they can get him to do that, and again, it doesn't have to be all the time. If you can get him a few times a game where he does something special, I think that can be what this running back by committee needs, and I think that makes it work because you got now all the pieces are laid out there as far as the different running backs and what the roles are.
By saying top 10 in the NFL, are you thinking that he has more yards than Zeke does at the end of the year?
Yes, I do.
Ooh.
I do. Because honestly, the way I look at Zeke, I think Zeke's that kind of running back that, and I don't know if the Cowboys will use him in the way of, pound the defense early, and then that gives you a situation where later in the game they're kind of there's more opportunity for Rico, or they go with Rico and then at the end of the game they're like pounding you because you're tired with Zeke. I don't really know how they're going to use it, but I think Zeke is more that guy that just defenses are they don't want to have to tackle him.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, but I think Rico, my personal belief, I think Rico's going to be the lead back for this team. That's how I look at it.
Wow. And I've got on record thinking that Zeke would be your red zone solution, basically, compared to last year. And seeing Rico get more snaps, I would be really surprised if Rico has more snaps than Zeke, or more carries this year than Zeke. But I wouldn't hate to see it.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting part is right now, you look at what they're doing on kickoffs and having Rico back there, maybe that offsets that. Maybe he doesn't have as many carries as Zeke because they're also using him in kickoffs. Who knows? But I personally believe Rico is, in my opinion right now, the running back that I think gives you the best chance to do a lot of different things. Like his skill set and where he is in his career, I think he can do a lot of different things, probably more so than any other running back on the roster. The question just becomes, as I said before, can he stay healthy? That's the big key for him, in my opinion.
My thing for Deuce Vaughn is, number one, it was huge for him to have the game he had against the Raiders for a couple reasons. One, he missed the preseason opener and several practices surrounding that with the hamstring injury. We talked to him after the game, and he said being sidelined by the hamstring injury was the first time that he dealt with that kind of soft tissue issue sidelining him. So he had to kind of keep motivated and throughout that. But he comes back, and what does he give you? 6.9 yards per carry on only 5 carries.
Yeah.
And it wasn't explosive plays on each one. You had the big explosive play where he just absolutely stole the ankles of the defender in open space. That can be terrifying for a defender, 100%. And I spoke to him about this. I asked him about this specifically. He also showed power. There were one of those plays where the first contact was made behind the line of scrimmage. He powers through that guy, sheds that guy, goes and powers through another guy and pushes him forward for a couple-yard gain. Those are the kind of dirty runs that you wouldn't expect to see from Deuce Vaughn, and he said that was a focus for him this offseason, building up his strength, building up his powers, because he said those dirty runs are where the hay is made in the NFL, so that's clicking with that young man. But what I will say to Derek's point, I think that when you look at the totality of the Cowboys running back room, first and foremost, you have to start at the offensive line because it was a complementary failing, for lack of a better way to put it, as far as why the running attack was subpar last year, to Mike McCarthy's admission. So the offensive line, we're giving this praise for the offensive line. We believe it will ultimately be what it needs to be. There will be some hiccups from Beebe and Tyler Guyton. They're rookies. They're going to get baptized once or twice, be it Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, one of these other guys. I think they'll hold their own. But assuming that the offensive line holds strong and does what it needs to do, that's half the battle. The other half is who terrifies you in this room if you're an opposing defender. There aren't any running backs on the Cowboys roster that make me, if I'm the opposing defender, point at them and say, that person gives me nightmares. This isn't 2016, 2017 Zeke. I think Rico Dowdle can have a Tony Pollard year, breakout type year. But until it happens, it's not going to terrify you. Deuce Vaughn, you need to see more from him. Struggled last year in getting on the field. When he was on the field, didn't shock and all like he wanted to, like the Cowboys wanted him to. Small sample size. Saw what he did against the Raiders. Like, okay, eyebrow up. Are you terrified? You're not terrified. And it goes from there. Royce Freeman, capable running back. Does he scare anyone? Malik Davis, capable running back. Does he scare anyone? Snoop Conner, Nathaniel Pete, he's an undrafted guy. So these guys can be impact players, and Zeke will be an impact player. Rico will be an impact player, but they're not Derrick Henry, right? They're not those types of – they're not Christian McCaffrey. Right, those are when I think of running backs that give you nightmares before you face them, I'm thinking CMC, those types of guys. Am I saying that the Cowboys don't have the guy? I'm saying that because there's a reason they have guys, plural. It is by committee. It's going to be Zeke and Rico, 1A, 1B on any given week. Week 1, Rico might have more touches for more yards. Week 2, Zeke might have more touches for more yards, and vice versa. Mix in some Deuce. But they don't have the guy. That's why they have several guys.
Can I take you back real quick? I'm going to throw out a name. Some of you may know the name, some may not. Dave Meggett. Remember Dave Meggett?
No,
None of you
not
guys
at
remember
all.
Dave Meggett? He was a running back for the New York Giants back in the I'm guessing this was
Nicole's laughing for a reason.
late 80s, early 90s. Bill Parcells was the coach there. And when I talked about, I agree with what you're saying. When I talked about Deuce, Dave Meggett is the guy that comes to my mind. Again, I'm not saying Deuce is going to be a terror, like teams are like, oh my gosh, we got to deal with him. The issue is when you have that little gadget player,
Derek
you can move around. Yeah, when you can move him around, you can do these different things. Now he becomes a matchup issue.
That's
so
fair.
yes, he may not scare you from the standpoint of just his overall skill. Like
Yep.
you don't look at him and be like, this is the best running back in the league.
Right.
But you do say, man, this guy becomes a matchup issue for us because they line him up here and it's going to match him up with someone or put him in a situation where he has an advantage because of whatever, right?
Right.
And I think that's where you
That's
can
fair.
create some issues. If he can be the kind of electric player that he was last night, and quite frankly, in my opinion, the best run he had last night was a 2-yard pickup for the first down. Like that was the run
That
where
was
I was
impressive.
like, he bulldozed his way to that first down. That's not something we saw from him last year. Last year, contact, he went down. That was not what we saw last night. We saw multiple times where the pile moved after he had contact. So if they can get that kind of production from him and those electric plays from him, I think he creates a matchup problem for other teams. And that's where this running back room can have a little bit more of that spark than what it has right now.
And I have a question to follow up on that, and I'm going to toss this to Harris, and I want Josh to weigh in on this as well. We're talking about this running backs room, and as I said, I believe any one of these guys can be impactful. I believe it's going to be Zeke leading alongside Rico, figure out how to get Deuce mixed in. But Hunter Lipke,
I was waiting. I was waiting for
He was
my
sitting over here biding his time.
I was waiting.
I
was
you.
sitting here waiting.
He was
You said 1A, 1B. I was like, where's 1C?
I got you. and that's my question. How do the Cowboys factor Hunter Lipke in? Because obviously he's going to give you some M9 blocking and I formations and power and goal line situations, but they want to utilize him as a receiver out of the backfield at times. It's kind of like that pressure release valve. What do the splits look like from the Cowboys as far as the handoffs are?
Yeah, from a Hunter Lipke perspective, or are you asking more so in general?
Yes.
Okay, so I think yesterday, I'm going to go kind of a roundabout answer here. I think yesterday told us a lot about the running back room. Like, you can kind of start to see the picture a little bit, because last week you don't have Deuce Vaughn, you don't have Royce Freeman, and you go, 16 carries for 47 yards. Just between those two guys yesterday, 12 carries for 66 yards. So I think those guys at the end of the day, while they have missed probably about a week and a half each at training camp due to injuries, those are the guys that are going to be competing for that quote-unquote RB3 spot. I think those are the two guys you're looking at. Malik Davis had his opportunities. Snoop Connor has had the carries. He's had his opportunities. Same with Nathaniel Pete. When it comes to Hunter Lipke, I view him as almost off on an island, just because he's no one can play his role other than Princeton Fant, I believe. Like, if Lipke were to get hurt at any point during the season, it's Princeton Fant that would probably jump in and fill that role for them. But you look at Lipke and you see him as a downhill blocker leading running lanes. You see him split out as a tight end, which we didn't see a lot of last year. He's getting out in the receiving game, but he's also helping get at the point of attack in the run game. It gets him closer to the line of scrimmage so that they can get ahead of the run game a little bit. And then you also see him in the receiving ends of things. I think, I always call back to that preseason game last year against the Raiders, where he was so active in the receiving game. He had the receiving touchdown. He's a guy that can do a lot of things, and it's no discredit to the rest of the running back room, but none of those other guys can do what he does. So I view him purely as that fullback option and purely as that guy who's going to have that roster spot regardless. And then when I look at the running back picture specifically, we look at the carry split. I think you're maybe looking at majority, like over 50%, I would say, to Zeke. You have Rico Dowdle, who's probably right behind, and then you have Deuce / Royce, who's coming in as the change of pace back, coming in as that third down back, coming in as that receiving type back. So looking at those kinds of guys, and I think that's probably how the carry split. From a Lipke perspective, as far as carries go, 1 or 2 a game, similar to how it was last year, but they're getting him more active in the receiving game too. So they want to get the ball in his hands. They're just looking for more creative ways.
And to kind of backpedal a little bit, when we're talking about running backs that you're afraid of, I don't think that that's going to happen on this team. I don't think there's a running back that you're afraid of necessarily. But by this time, by Thanksgiving, I think at least the idea is that you want to be afraid of this offensive line, no matter who's running the ball.
That's the thing.
And that was a clear indication on how they handled the draft. And just even looking at them now, the talent is there. You want to be afraid of this offensive line come Thanksgiving.
And you very well could be if they continue on this trajectory and they remain healthy. I can't stress that enough, because when you look at the carousel that the Cowboys had to endure on their offensive line last season, which also helped cost them a winnable game against the Arizona Cardinals. That's just one example. If this Cowboys front five can remain healthy, that will help them gel and build chemistry that much more quickly to start the season, that then will carry them through the remainder of the season. So
I got a question for you guys. Y'all might know this, y'all might not know this right offhand. Who
We
are
gotta
the running
take a break
backs?
right after this. Just like
Oh, okay. Why don't we go to break?
Yeah, let's
We'll
go
come
ahead.
back and I'll ask that question.
There we go.
All right.
Be right back.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to Cowboys Camping Out.
Welcome back into Camping Out, presented by Solo Stove, the official fire pit of the Dallas Cowboys. Check them out at solostove.com. Now, we spend a lot of time.
We got a poltergeist situation.
Talking
To the light, Caroline.
I am battling
You battling what?
this light. But go ahead. We're good. We're good.
No,
We're good.
you're
Let's keep it
fine.
moving.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about the offense. We got to switch gears to the defense before we wrap things up on Camping Out. Marshawn Nealon, guys.
Mm-hmm. A dude.
A dude.
A dude.
A dog. I'll start with Josh this time. I feel like I haven't done
What's
you
up?
a little bit. What did you think about Marshawn Nealon and as far as just his passing situations, pass rush? Because that's something that I feel like he's really improved on as the couple of weeks have really, kind of gone on.
No, okay. I don't want to. I
But
don't
you're
want
gonna.
to. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But you're
I don't
gonna.
When
wanna-
you start without a wanna.
Yeah, but I'm going.
I don't want to. I'm gonna. Does he seem sort of like plug and play at this point? Like he's kind of. It seems like he's been there before.
I'm not going there, man.
You're not going
He
there?
hasn't had an NFL regular season
I know,
snap.
but
I'm not going there yet.
With what we're seeing, does
Yeah,
that?
what we're seeing
There
is
seems a level of maturity to
what
me.
we're seeing
I'll
is
give
that
you
this is a good college prospect
Yes.
coming into the NFL. That's what we're seeing.
Right.
That's all we're seeing right now.
Fair enough.
Is this
Once
a hot-
I get to see him against NFL caliber offensive tackles, then I can tell you, yes, he is what I thought he was going to be, or he is well above what I thought he was going to be, or whatever. I can't say that right
So
now. We can't say
the
that
tank comparisons can't be there just yet. And I
can
know
call
that.
him a baby tank right now.
A baby tank.
He's a
Tank.
baby tank right
Tank
now.
Junior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tank Junior.
Half tank.
He shows me some things
Half
that makes
tank.
me think he could be like Tank. I don't know yet when I put him into a game in a regular season against offensive tackles that are some of the best in the league. Is he going to be the same guy? I don't know that. We just don't know that yet.
So to clarify, the attributes that I see out of Marshawn Nealon are run stopping and run stopping. like that's what I'm seeing right now so far, and I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at with him
He
right
has
now.
pass rush ability.
Yeah, so
Cautiously
Let's not
optimistic
sleep on that.
Marshawn Nealon.
Way more than you thought during draft
Yeah.
season,
For
I think.
sure.
that's
Yeah.
what I was going to go with. I don't believe quite yet that he's plug and play. Does that mean that won't change or can't change over the course of 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks? Of course it can change, especially with, and I love that you mentioned this, his maturity, the way he approaches the game, his football acumen, and how hungry he is to learn. We heard Coach Greg Ellis, the assistant defensive line coach, say that, tell us a story. One day during the offseason, it was his day off, he gets a text from Marshawn Nealon, and Marshawn is like, hey, Coach, can we watch film? And Greg Ellis is like, on one half, it's like it's my day off,
Yep.
right? And on the other half, he didn't want to dampen that young man's, thirst for learning. So what did Greg Ellis do? He looked at his wife and said, hey, I got to go.
That was
watch.
here.
Yeah, he did it again. And I have my own story about that because 2 days later, I'm walking from the meal hall over to the field, and Greg Ellis is coming out of the meeting rooms, and I hear this voice yell out, hey, Coach Greg. And he stops. He turns around, and it's Marshawn. And Marshawn's like, hey, can we watch game film? And Coach Ellis is like, I'm headed into, like, the meetings, like, right now. And this is Marshawn. He's like, oh, okay. But after?
You think like Greg Ellis on the off day, he's like wearing a hoodie with the eyes up to look at his food. He's putting his food on the plate. He's looking
that
around.
type of hunger and starvation to learn and get better is why I believe it will be no time at all before Marshawn Kneeland is in fact that plug and play guy. But if you're talking about instantly coming in and replacing what Sam Williams probably was going to give you, I'm with Derek. I'm not there until I see it, even though I am high on Marshawn Kneeland coming out. But I will disagree slightly in one aspect. Run defense, absolutely elite. That was his calling card coming out of college. I'm already seeing pass rush ability start to blossom. Go back and look at that film against the Raiders. They had such a hard time with him, and he wasn't breaking out all the moves. It wasn't spin moves and speed rush, bull rush, and he was beating them to the point where you see hold here, no flag, hold here, no flag. I was like, oh, he's getting the Micah treatment already. So, the pass rush is starting to develop. Is it Sam Williams level? No. Is it Micah Parsons level? Whose is? Is it DeMarcus Lawrence, prime DeMarcus Lawrence level, even though Tank is still playing at a high level? No, not quite yet, but it's developing, and his run defense is already stout. So, I think he can do some damage.
And my argument is that he's going to play. He's going to play a lot, I feel like.
A ton.
So that is the argument in itself. It is sort of
but
plug
then
and
you
play.
also have
out of necessity. It is
also
plug and
factor
play.
in the Carl Lawson variable.
That's true.
So Carl Lawson, they bring him in. So yes, Marshawn Kneeland is going to get a ton more snaps than if Sam was here, but maybe not as many as if Carl Lawson was not here and Carl is on the way.
But think about last year. You had Fowler and Armstrong here, and they all got lots of snaps. Like, there's a rotation they're going to work with. So I think both of them are going to get plenty of snaps.
But that was a challenge, though, because
and
Quadim Muhammad, and he looked great against the Raiders. But the challenge here is when you look at it comparatively to last year, it was a struggle getting Fowler on the field, for example. So it's a great problem to have.
Here's also the thing you got to think about, though, is I think last year
and Sam
for the most part, for the most part, you had Micah last year with his hand on the ground, defensive end, or on the outside defensive end. And I actually think he's going to move around a little bit more in this defense. I think there's going to be some times they're going to have him just moving around the field, which means you're going to have two other defensive ends on the field. So I think, look, at the end of the day, I think he's going to have an opportunity. Kneeland's going to have an opportunity to shine. What he does with that will be completely up to him. He's going to have some opportunities.
The depth at defensive end with Al-Qadim Muhammad, you got Carl Lawson, Marshawn Kneeland. Do you feel like that makes up for the loss of Sam Williams?
It can.
Yes.
It can.
I like that answer.
It can. TBD. And it has to be TBD because while Carl Lawson was effective last year, what does he look like right now? And he needs to ramp up, and he's not quite here yet. And we haven't gotten word yet. It was supposed to be the deal signed today. We'll see if that's the case. Nonetheless, they need to ramp him up to get him ready for the regular season. Marshawn Kneeland is a rookie, so he's going to have a rookie learning curve that needs to be overcome. And then when you just look at the totality of the defensive end room outside of DeMarcus Lawrence, the talent is there. The veteran ability is there. Even if you take Marshawn's rookie situation out, there's enough there to make an impact to make the loss of Sam Williams sting a lot less than it could otherwise. So I applaud them because Muhammad, not many teams and not many media folks were talking about AQM like that, right? They gave Shaka Toney a shot. He looked good in camp, but then he got injured, and then they didn't waste any time. They picked up the phone and said, hey, Carl, you still in the area? Come on back. Spin the block, right? So this is a defense under Mike Zimmer, and they're doing the same thing with linebackers. They're not necessarily waiting until the issue either presents itself or becomes untenable. They're bringing in guys, cycling out guys. So I think they can, but TBD.
The thing I'll say, too, is I think, and I want to be careful how I say this because I love Sam to death, and I think Sam has a lot of – I think Sam has a lot of talent. But Sam still had not gotten to the point where he was consistently contributing in the way that you needed him to contribute. This was going to be that year where we got him, where he was going to get more opportunities, and we're going to get to see, can he be a consistent contributor on this team, and can he get rid of some of the negative plays that he had last year, right? That was the part that's what we were hoping to be able to see. That's why it was so devastating when he went down, is because I was excited about seeing that about Sam. So when you start asking, can this replace Sam, my thought is, like, we didn't know what we had in Sam at that point. Like, we just were hopeful that he could ascend to that. I actually feel maybe, this might sound weird, I feel a little bit better about relying on the experience of somebody like Lawson more than I do the inexperience of someone like Sam, because I think Sam had a higher ceiling, but his floor might have been less. We just don't know that. We hadn't seen that yet.
And the discipline with Sam as well.
Right. That's my point. Yeah.
So maybe the question is less of, and that's an excellent point. Maybe the question is less of, can the trio that you mentioned, AQM, Carl Lawson, Marshawn Kneeland, can they effectively replace what you lost in Sam Williams, Dante Fowler,
There
and
you go.
Dorrance
That's the
Armstrong?
question.
That's
Yeah.
the
There we
question.
go.
That's the
And if that's the question, then I'll say yes.
Interesting. All right, well, before we go, I've got one question to ask each of y'all. On the defensive side of the ball, if you had to pick one player that you want to see take a big leap this week,
This week.
who would it be? Aside from, sorry, let me throw a little wrencher in there. Aside from Marshawn Leland, and aside from, yeah, that's it. Because we talked Marshawn Leland.
What do you got, Josh?
Oh, stop. Stop it.
I'll go Mozzie Smith. Can we?
Yeah.
I'm going to start with
Yeah.
Mozzie
Yeah,
Smith.
that's a good one.
Obviously had a freak accident on Friday that forced him to miss the game yesterday, and that's just tough because he needs these reps right now. But, you know, everyone's looking at this Jordan Phillips trade, and I think initially Cowboys Nation was like, okay, so Mozzie's been relegated to the second string, and I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that's the case here. I think Mozzie is still going to be heavily relied upon in the run game at the one-tech position. I think that's still the plan here. And so, yeah, I would like to see him take that step forward next week and have an even better performance than he had against the Rams last week. I think if he just continues to get reps, continues to show that, he's making improvements under Jeff Scanina, that would be great to see going into the season because defensive tackle is still my biggest concern on that defensive side of the ball.
Mine is Israel Mukuamu. I think right now you look at this defense and you look at the safety position,
Mm.
really just look at the defensive backs. It's getting harder and harder to make this team. Like there are going to be some good defensive backs on the Cowboys roster right now that will be available once cuts happen. And I think for Israel, this is a moment where he needs to have a game. And I think I think he's a good player. I've seen some things, and I love his attitude. Yeah. So I want to see him have one of those kind of games where he really gives him something to think about at the safety position. Yeah.
And I don't think the expectations are there necessarily to the seal. I don't know where the expectations are for Justin Rogers, but as a 7th round pick, I want to see a spark from that position and to see him play well in that next game for the sole sake of depth at that position.
I could go with the pretty pick, which would be like a Trey Lance, obviously, but I think collectively.
She said defense.
Defense.
Oh, defense. Okay.
Aside from my bad, I'm sorry.
You didn't know Trey can do it all, though.
Okay.
Are we breaking news?
Are we
breaking news? Breaking.
Defense. I'm going to go with Willie Harvey Jr. And I love the camp that Willie Harvey Jr. is having, but he did take a step back against the Rams, and that made the conversation at that time coming out of that game. Then it's Willie Harvey versus Nick Vigil because you know what you got above them, right? So you got Eric Kendricks, Damone Clark, DeMarvion Overshown, and Maris Lewis-Fowle. So there are your 4, and I'm willing to carry 5. So give me a +1. And for me, the +1 was Willie Harvey going into the Rams game, but then Vigil flashed in the Rams game, especially on special teams. Vigil has pre-existing relationship with a couple of defensive guys like Mike Zimmer. But Willie Harvey took strides against the Raiders. He nearly had a pick 6. You got to come down with that, Willie. Help me out. Help me out. I'm right here with you. You got to help me out. But also had another pass breakup, and that was all in the first quarter. So coverage skills are absolutely there. That's something that Mike Zimmer absolutely loves from his linebackers. And I just want to see Willie Harvey take that next step, maybe get that interception, get that pick 6, maybe get a takeaway, force a fumble, something like that. So, yeah, I want to see that because I want the +1 battle, the battle for +1, the linebacker. I want that to be hot and heavy. Not that it already isn't, but I want to see it really start cooking.
Well, he'll have a chance on Saturday against the Chargers.
Oh, yeah.
3 p.m. kickoff. Wait, we didn't even get a chance to highlight Brandon Aubrey, who would have tied the NFL
Or
record.
Kamara.
Dang.
All you got to say 66-yarder. That's enough.
Hey.
Like, we get it.
66-yarder, and congratulations to the Aubreys. They welcomed Colt Aubrey into the world not long after the game against the Rams. So, yeah.
We were talking about him coming around the edge before the show. That's a possibility.
It was. Listen, send Brandon Aubrey. It's dad strength now. That dad strength is kicked in.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
Are we rapping here?
We
didn't get.
No, I was.
We didn't get Harris's, did we?
No, I was asking for a reason. I was asking
you're
because I had something I need to say before we wrap the show. Are we rapping?
Yeah, we are.
All right, so real quick.
Well, can I get one more shout out?
Sure, go ahead.
Come on, Hall. Pick 6. Seeing that young man, he was claimed off.
Here we go with that.
Do it. Go ahead.
GMG call.
Okay.
Wait, that's what y'all do?
Yep.
I hate that for y'all.
Wow.
That's insane. Hey, don't even. We're going to leave it at that.
Who from Howard got a pick 6 last
Don't
night?
do it.
Wow. You went there?
Hey,
He went there.
come on, you see what
Fine.
you see what you causing? But no, real
You
talk.
know?
Shouts out to that young man because he's approaching 30. So he's 27, I believe, but his NFL journey has involved a lot of turmoil as far as short stints on teams, waived, signed, waived, claimed, waived, signed, and here he is, second stint with the Cowboys. Last stint was very abbreviated, practice squad 2020, and he comes out and he gets the pick 6. But that wasn't a fluke play because he had a multiple interception day earlier in August in training camp. He had a pick that day on Trey Lance. He had a pick on Cooper Rush. So since he was claimed from the 49ers after they waived him earlier this training camp, he's been making waves in practice, and now he's making waves in games as well. You talk about that defensive back battle and trying to cut that down. Keemon Hall is going to make that conversation that much more difficult. Yeah. So shouts out to that young man.
Butler too. I think he's an
Josh Butler is
Yeah.
another one as well.
Player, yeah.
So and also funny story, real short. Keemon Hall, he doesn't want to bring up to Jerry Jones.
I know.
Or
That was
remind
actually
him,
a great story.
or remind
Great
him
story.
that it was
His
Keemon
grandson.
Hall when in his time with UNT versus Arkansas when they blew the doors off of Arkansas. Keemon Hall with the 26, I believe, yard pick 6 off of John Stephen.
Last time he had a
Jones.
pick 6, yeah.
Yeah,
Last time
so
he had a pick 6.
life goes full circle. So shouts out to that young
Shout
man.
out
No
to
doubt.
you.
No
Oh,
doubt.
I'm sorry, my bad.
You
had something.
Oh, yeah, it's
What's
a
up?
personal thing. I
Oh.
got to say, it's roughly about, what's that, 10:56 back home? 10:56. All right, so in roughly about an hour and 4 minutes, we will hit midnight, and it will be my 24th wedding anniversary.
Hey.
And I gotta take a second because for those of you out there who have been like watching us come out to training camp every year, what you don't know is the part of the people that you leave back home, and
Yes.
particularly spouses that you leave back home. My wife is a rock. When I tell you, every year what can go wrong goes wrong while we're at training camp. And for 24 years, she has been holding it down. For 20 of those years, she's been holding it down with a kid or 2 kids and making things happen while I'm out at training camp and having the time of my life doing what I do and what I enjoy, my passion, right? And she's at home holding it down. And so I just have to say, honey, I appreciate you.
Come on.
Thank you for 24 years, and let's keep this thing going. We got at least 26, 27 more left in us. Let's keep this rolling.
I love it.
Shout out to Mrs. Eagleton,
Well,
man.
let Nicole tell it you ain't got but a couple more years.
I know.
She talking like you 95.
I know.
Okay.
She does act like
Although to be fair, he is making the sounds when he sits down. We talk
all
about
the
it.
time.
He does.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Well, on that note, this has been Camping Out presented by Solo Stove. For Josh Rodriguez, Patrik Walker, myself, Nicole Hutchison, Derek Eagleton, and Nick Harris. So long, Cowboys Nation.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!